By far, the most recognizable symbol of the Clone Wars was the armor worn by the clone troopers of the Grand Army of the Republic, especially their helmets. There have always been some fans, however, that have questioned the utility of this armor, since it quite clearly can't stop blaster bolts. Today, we hope to put that perspective to rest. Clone armor was indeed extremely useful, even if it wasn't perfect, and in this video, we're gonna go over why. This video is going to be split into two parts. In the first part, we'll be discussing standard armor and why it was so great, as it was adaptable to nearly every climate and came with a plethora of performance boosting gear. In the second part, we'll be discussing the benefits of certain popular armor modifications and specialized climate armor sets. So without further ado, let's discuss the standard armor.
Attention, Sergeant on deck!
The first part, and one of the most essential parts of clone armor, is the one that's most often forgotten: the black body glove that lay beneath the plating. This body glove was not only mostly comfortable and sufficient to cover most of the average human's body, but it also had other practical uses, like helping to keep one's body temperature at a stable level and providing a layer of protection for joints that can't be armored. These body gloves were also capable of working in tandem with helmets to provide an enclosed environment around a being, allowing for survival even in vacuum, at least for a limited time. These body gloves persisted without much change even into the time of the Empire, and the fact that many Jedi generals started using them as well stands as a testament to their usefulness. The more visible part of the clone armor set was, of course, the armor itself. Clone armor consisted of 20 plastoid plates fitted onto the bodysuit beneath, which provided protection against everything from primitive bladed weapons to shrapnel to even glancing blaster shots. While clone armor may seem clunky and useless on the surface, it actually provided a whole lot of protection from the secondary dangers of the battlefield. It's often forgotten that shrapnel can be a greater threat to a soldier than enemy infantry, and clone armor almost completely protected troopers against that and other similar dangers, allowing them to focus more on their missions. These armor plates also came with a number of useful built-in features, like the wide-range comlink built into the clone gauntlets and the climate control system built into the backplate. Clone armor was, after all, climate controlled. Each clone had a life support system on their back that monitored their vitals and worked with the body glove to regulate the temperature inside the armor, most often in the form of cooling. This enabled clones to fight in all but the most extreme of temperatures in standard battle armor, saving the Republic money on climate protection. Another key part of standard clone armor was the belt. The belt primarily stored spare power packs and gas cartridges for blaster rifles, but it had 4 pouches that could hold other things as well, including food capsules, grappling hooks, detonators, and spare general use power cells. Also equipped with clone belts was a small handheld thermal detonator, which was supposed to be used as a last-ditch suicide weapon if a clone found himself in a particularly nasty position. The most important part of any clone's kit was, of course, the helmet. Clone helmets had a whole ton of advanced gear built into them, and many a clone was known to joke that they were just machines made to pull triggers for their helmets. This joke wasn't even all that far from the truth either. Among the many systems built into the clone HUDs was one that linked helmet view screens directly to clone blasters to help them aim, which essentially means that all clone troopers were playing with aimbot mods. Clone helmets also cleared up vision for the men behind the helmets, cutting through the smoke and dust and highlighting targets in red. The most important part of the helmet was its communications gear, however, which allowed clones to speak to each other without having to shout over the din of battle, and even making such conversations completely inaudible to anyone not wearing a helmet themselves. This communications gear linked clones directly to LAAT gunships and command centers, allowing any clone on any battlefield to be pinpointed on a map. High power antennas were built into the fins of Phase 1 helmets for this very purpose. Helmets also completed the environmental seal of the armor, making clones impervious to unfriendly gas mixtures due to built-in filters, as long as there was breathable air somewhere mixed in. Between the climate control system built into the armor and the helmet filters, standard clone armor was usable in almost every environment. It wasn't perfect, however, and there were modifications made, some of which became universal. Phase 2 clone armor was designed to address the shortcomings in the standard kit. Aside from the helmet, the only modifications made were to make the armor more comfortable, which was a major problem with Phase 1. Most of the improvements came with the new helmets, however. Communications gear in the helmets was made more compact and the air filtration system was greatly improved. Polarized lenses and an annunciator were added, and most importantly, the helmet was given nozzles that could link up to life support packs generally given to clone pilots, making the armor fully viable for combat in a vacuum. No one set of armor could cover any situation, however, and so modifications were often made. Of particular note were Karmas and Pauldrons, armor enhancements frequently used by clone officers. Karmas were flexible leather battle skirts that provided an additional level of protection from shrapnel and battlefield debris, though they were mostly for show. For airborne troopers in particular, they frequently proved useful, as they were known to be effective at shielding the legs of a soldier from the downdraft of a jetpack. Pauldrons were also frequently used, especially by ARC troopers. While during the time of the Galactic Empire, pauldrons would be used to signify rank, this was mostly unofficial during the Clone Wars, when the added armor was mostly practical. Many clone captains and commanders used them for added protection for their clone chests and shoulders, as the energy conductive material used in clone pauldrons could be used to lessen the impact of a blaster shot, as seen when Captain Rex was shot by the droid commandos. Helmet modifications were the most common form of clone armor mods. Clones of all ranks used these, though they were much more common among officers than among standard troopers. Some, like Visors, were just for show. Clones like Commander Fox used them to make themselves stand out, though they did occasionally have a degree of practical use too, as shown by Commander Cody, who mounted communications gear on his. Other clones attached rangefinders or macro binoculars to their helmets, which improved their vision and, as a result, their aim. Macro binoculars were exactly what they sound like, but mounted to a clone's helmet for easy use. Clones on lookout duty or scouts employed these frequently, as it eliminated the need for a bulkier handheld set. Rangefinders, meanwhile, linked up with clone HUDs and blaster targeting systems, allowing clone sharpshooters to make better shots. Both attachments came with additional night vision modes. Some specialized clone classes had their own sets of armor, which were specialized for their role. Clone scouts, which included both ARF troopers and the scouts seen on Kashyyyk, had the most notable armor variant, which came with camouflage markings and a unique helmet that was better suited to a reconnaissance role. Phase 2 versions of this armor were lighter, with less armor plating and more open fabric, which made movement easier and less noisy. Another example of armor specialization was clone paratroopers. These clones were equipped with Karmas, pauldrons, and short-range jetpacks, but their most notable modification was a specialized helmet intended for their role. As these clones dropped from low orbit directly to a battlefield, their helmets were redesigned so as to compensate for there being less oxygen in upper atmosphere without necessitating a full life support unit. This saved money, and clone paratroopers went on to be one of the Grand Army's most effective clone variants. Clones involved in special operations units had their own specialized helmet, with improved communications gear that was encrypted better than standard clone frequencies. While CIS slicers could hack into clone helmet feeds or conversations between troopers without all that much effort, special operations helmets were designed with this in mind, and communications sent from such helmets were almost perfectly secure. Lastly, there were a few clone armor variants that were designed for extreme environments beyond the range of the standard armor's climate control units. Scuba troopers, for example, made use of specialized helmets and air tanks intended for undersea combat, as well as special bodysuits designed to withstand extreme pressure and flippers. Cold assault armor was made for clones that would see action in icy climates, and there was also special clone exosuits designed for use in space. So guys, that was our complete tour of a Clone Troopers standard armor set and the many modifications for it as well. So as per usual, I want to know your thoughts in the comment section below. Did any of this surprise you, and more importantly, which clone armor set would you have liked to use during the Clone Wars? Let me know in the comment section below. And just before you go, guys, please do make sure you check out all the links in the description below. I do have a second history channel called The Front that I'm working really hard on at the moment. So if you are into history, I really do think you'll enjoy that channel. But if you're more into gaming or you just want to join the wider Star Wars community, then we do have all of our Discord links in the description below, as well as our Geetsly's gaming network, where you can join us on Gmod and Roblox. So make sure you check out all of those, guys. They are in the description below. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.